Let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump's recent 60 Minutes interview. We had so much to cover earlier this week that we didn't really discuss it too much except in passing. And our friend Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk covered it in detail. One of the aspects he covered was Donald Trump saying that I am fine with gay marriage. Let's take a look at Kyle's coverage.
President-elect Trump, which sounds weird every time I say it, spoke about the issue of gay marriage, and he took an interesting new path.
One of the groups that's expressing fear is the LGBTQ group.
And yet I mentioned them at the Republican National Convention, and everybody said that was so great. I have been, I've been a supporter.
Well, I guess the issue for them is marriage equality. Do you support marriage equality?
It's irrelevant because it was already settled. It's law. It was settled in the Supreme Court. I mean, it's done.
So even if you appoint a judge that...
It's done. You have, these cases have gone to the Supreme Court. They've been settled. And I think I'm fine with that.
Interesting. So I have a lot to say on that. First of all, good. Credit where credit is due. That's a much better answer than Rick Santorum would give, or Mike Huckabee would give, or Ted Cruz would give, or any of the really big-time social conservatives would give. So there's a massive upside in that. The second thing is, he's personally fine with gay marriage because when he's asked about Roe versus Wade and whether or not that needs to be repealed, he says yes. Okay, but hold on, Don. That's a settled case, too. So notice the logic isn't the same. For gay marriage, he basically uses the logic, look, it's settled law. They had the case, they came to their conclusion, let's move along here. Well, that same reasoning would be applied to Roe versus Wade and abortion. But you didn't do that. With abortion, you said, well, no, that should be looked at, and I'm going to appoint pro-life judges. And he even went on to say in the interview, a woman might have to go to another state to get an abortion.
Yeah, I mean, the broader point of what Kyle is discussing here is what are Trump's personal views versus how is Trump going to legislate? And this applies to many issues. And I've talked about this so many times before, and it actually also relates to this whole thing of, well, Trump can't personally be anti-Semitic, or it would be weird if he were, because his daughter's Jewish and his son-in-law, who he's very close to, is Jewish, and his grandkids are Jewish, etc. That is separate from the reality that Trump has significantly emboldened anti-Semites and Jew haters and all sorts of alt-righters and white nationalists and the KKK, David Duke, etc. It's pretty clear to me that Trump is not religious at all. But he's played up the religion thing since becoming candidate for president of the United States, and evangelicals turned out and they voted for him. And now the question is, well, it no longer matters whether Trump is personally religious and likes the ideas of the religious right. I think as a lifelong Democratic New Yorker, he probably does not really care for those ideas because the evangelical vote helped to get him elected. And now there is going to be an IOU there, no doubt about it. Gay marriage. I have no doubt that Trump has never had a problem with gay marriage his entire life, although now he has had to sort of go back and forth and say, is it a state issue, Supreme Court, this, that, the other thing. I don't think that he is going to really try to do anything in terms of legislation on gay marriage. But the real relevant questions are things like abortion. We've heard from him on abortion that, well, the woman shouldn't get punished. When he said that, that was wrong. But Roe v. Wade, yeah, I'm into seeing that repealed by having the Supreme Court justices, which would look at it, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe for a second Trump's entire thing about how now he is very pro-life, strongly pro-life because of some incident that he had. He's been pro-choice his entire life, and that is probably a politically crafted position. And this applies to so many areas. I deep down think that Donald Trump played a far more conservative character. Conservative is maybe not even the right word, reactionary character during his presidential campaign than who he really is. But it almost doesn't matter anymore because he got elected based on those ideas, and there are going to be advisors. Look at who he has, Mike Pence and Steve Bannon and Newt Gingrich and all of these others. They are not going to just allow Trump to forget all the stuff that he said to get elected. So I don't know where the balance will be. I think Kyle is spot on this, and it comes down to Trump's opinion versus Trump's public position. Only time will tell. We've seen, at least on Obamacare, that there has been a very quick backtracking. We've seen on prosecuting Hillary, very quick backtracking, and even on the wall, probably will end up being some fencing so that he can claim victory on part of the border. And Mexico is not paying for a wall across the entire border. So I think that this is a very relevant issue. We'll be keeping track, right? We know all the promises he made, and Trump made very specific promises, and we'll see how many of them actually happen.